I'm very excited to welcome an incredible chef and a good friend, Morgan McGlone. Yay!
Thank you.
He's only in for 3 days, and he decided to come and treat us all with a couple of hot chicken goodies today. So Morgan's actually had a 20-year career cooking in some of the top restaurants in Australia and around the world, including Dom in Brazil, Pierre Garnier in France, Salt in Australia. And then in 2011, Morgan did a stage at Husk Restaurant in Charleston. It was supposed to last a month, but he ended up staying with the company for 3.5 years and actually becoming the head chef of Husk Nashville. So who would have guessed that a half Maori, half Irish chef here could be the first non-American chef to run one of the most highly anticipated restaurant openings in the country that year.
Short list.
And then after a trip back to Australia, Morgan saw a gap in the market where this niche American favorite would flourish. And Bell's Hot Chicken was born. So Bell's became one of the hottest phenomenons in Australia, quickly expanding to 7 stores with a cult following, and they sell about 9,000 pounds of Nashville hot chicken every week. So before we sit down and have a chat with him, we're going to start today's talk with a demo by Morgan to show you how he's going to make the Nashville hot chicken. For any kind of like avid home cooks at home, he's going to share his secrets. So,
first off, thanks for having me. I never thought, 5 years ago that, starting this thing with Nashville hot chicken, that I'd be talking, cooking, well, not cooking, directly cooking, but talking at Google. It's a massive honor. There's a few tips. I think there's a few hacks about fried chicken that it's quite easily, you can do it at home. It's pretty simple. The most important thing is, I think, which people don't often do, is brining your chicken. Now, what does brining do? It's a salt solution that loosens up the protein strands, which basically makes the chicken juicier. I think a simple recipe that I use is 1 cup of salt to 1 gallon of water. Some people are talking about 7%, 10%. I don't know any of those percentages, but I just know that if you use 1 cup of salt to 1 gallon of water, and that's it, and just cover your chicken. Tenders, 1 hour. Wings, 2 hours. Drumsticks, 4 hours. That's it. Drain your chicken. Make sure it's well drained, like so. Then we have what we call it at Husk, we call it a flour daddy. So I use AP flour and rice flour. You can use chickpea flour, you can use rice starch, you can use corn starch, you can use any sort of starch. And then we have a mix of herbs and spices. I believe the Colonel has 11, we have 12. We just beat him by 1. Loads of different things, cloves, sage, bay leaf. I use every sort of kind of spice except for any chili spices, because I find that they burn inside the oil. So then basically the method we use at Bell's is called a flour hydration method. We brine the chicken, then we flour it 1 time. We allow it to sort of like just chill out in the fridge for about up to 8 hours. Then we'll bring it back out and we'll flour it again. Now, how is that different to, say, buttermilk dredging? I guess there's Korean fried chicken. There's different styles of fried chicken, but I find this way, it's economically, it's much cheaper from the restaurant, but I think it gives a better result and it sort of lasts longer. I think once you add buttermilk, you give it a chance to get soggy quite quickly. So imagine this is our fry. Unfortunately, we couldn't fry today because, actually these.
Fire hazard, I guess.
Fire hazard. I fry in canola oil or cottonseed oil. I think peanut oil is okay, but there's a lot of allergies with oils these days. So vegetable, canola, or cottonseed are pretty much neutral, and they have a good fry point that it won't burn so quickly. I generally fry at 350 Fahrenheit, 178 degrees Celsius, and something like this, these little drumettes and flats and stuff, we're probably looking at 5-6 minutes maximum. And then you want to just drop them in, not from high heat because you don't want to splash yourself, and just let them work themselves out. And once you can kind of know with chicken in a bone, as soon as it floats to the top, it's pretty much done.
How many would you put in a pot that size at home?
That size, well, I would keep the oil around halfway, and I would not put more than 8 pieces of that size. Start putting more, you're going to basically, the temperature drops right down, and then you have this thing called elastic cooking time, which is the temperature that you want to start it at, which is 178 or 350 Fahrenheit. It'll drop right down, and then it's up to you to make sure you get it up to back up to that temperature. I suggest at home just getting one of those Breville. I'm not sponsored by Breville anyway, but like Breville, I've got one of those Breville deep fryers, mini deep fryers. They work. Just crank it. It says 350, but you're going to have to crank it pretty high. Drop it down and you set it and forget it. 7 minutes later, or 6 to 7 minutes later, you're going to come out. And then we have, golden brown. Now, basically, Southern style fried chicken, we would just add our seasoning salt, which is special seasoning salt that we use at Bell's, which is my recipe, which is chicken booster powder, white pepper, black pepper, and salt, just normal salt. We use a chicken booster powder, MSG, it's a great thing. It's not a bad thing, but it's a great thing. And then basically what I would do is, to make Nashville hot chicken, like so, we're going to use a thing called masala dip. It doesn't have anything to do with chicken tikka masala or anything. I don't know actually where the origin comes from in Nashville, but it's just basically it's the used chicken grease, salt, smoked paprika, cayenne pepper, and butter. So I would just a little bit of oil there, not too much, and then we have our our special spice blend. Probably go 2 times that. And then we would, a little bit of, from Great Height looks really good. We'll do one more. And then we have here on the side is a little bit of Mississippi comeback sauce.
This flipping thing, can anyone do this?
Yeah, like, look at that.
Can you do that?
Super easy. And then you got it here, like so. And then just some pickles. We would normally just serve with some pickles.
Oh.
Yeah. I like the Mount Olive bread and butter pickles. These are dill pickles. And that's pretty much it. So simple. Like.
Amazing. Show it to the camera.
Let's give it a little bit of that. Do you want to pass it off?
Wow, I mean, who wants to have a taste?
There you go.
Why are you? We're going to sit down and have a chat. Why don't...
Well,
You can do a voting system, you can do a fighting system.
who wants it first, man?
It's like Hunger Games. Get in here.
I'm just going to... I'll let you hold
I'll
this.
pass it out. You go.
Well, I mean, look, we're here to talk about how you've dedicated your life to hot chicken. I mean, I kind of want to jump into it. Why Nashville hot chicken? What was the story there?
Well, I'd worked in like fine dining restaurants pretty much my whole entire life. I thought that I wanted to be one of the great chefs, the Rene Redzepis or the, Massimo Bottaras of the world, and that's what I thought. That's where my future was. I was going towards that sort of future in cooking, but it takes a lot of dedication, and I think at the end of the day, maybe I was a little bit lazy as well. I didn't want to work so hard anymore, and I went to, in 2011, I went and worked as a 1 month stage in Charleston at Husk under Sean Brock. Mm-hmm. Basically trying to find myself, and ended up in Charleston. Was meant to be there for 1 month and ended up staying for 3.5 years. It was a great just an eye-opening experience for me. I had never worked in that way.
And this is where you learned how to make.
It was a start, yeah. I mean, I thought I was doing fried chicken in Australia, and I was doing it completely wrong. We were encouraged to go to this restaurant called Martha Lou's, which is an insane 80. At that time, she would have been about 82 years old, cooking, Southern-style soul food. And it was, for me to eat that style of food, I was just kind of like enamored from day one. I knew I was in the right place. I had to find a way to get a job there. At the time, Husk had just won Bon Appetit Best New Restaurant of the Year. Aaron, you came for a little, you came by for a, there was back in the blogger days, all these big time food writers and stuff were eating there, and I got real lucky. 2011 was a great year in the South, but basically we would eat fried chicken, and I just knew that style of food was.
What specifically drew you to that style of cooking, do you think?
I think it's just the people that are involved in that, like Martha Lou, and I got to meet a really amazing, who's now a really good friend of mine, Rodney Scott, who's got Scott's Barbecue. At the time, he only had one store, which was way out in Hemingway, South Carolina, hour and a half outside of Charleston. And it was kind of like a rite of passage. You had to go out there on your day off, or every couple of weeks there would be a car going out there with a bunch of the cooks, and you'd bring back, a couple of extra pounds of barbecue for the whole crew. Mm-hmm. And just things were it's a normal part of life there. Like, they don't talk about farm to table. They actually live farm to table. There was many times at Husk that we were expecting X amount of pounds of tomatoes coming into the restaurant, and unfortunately, due to a hailstorm or rain, we didn't get them that day. So, that sort of that's why the menu changed so often there at Husk.
Great. So before you went to Husk, you brought Bell's Hot Chicken back to Australia. Was there anything like it in Australia before Bell's?
Just basically with fried chicken, there was just like KFC. We don't have a lot. We don't have Chick-fil-A. We don't have Bojangles. We don't have Popeyes in Australia. We just had KFC. So, as much as it's not really a big part of the culture in Australia. We have charcoal chicken, so that's sort of like the chicken sort of standard in Australia. So I basically wanted to create a venue where we could celebrate fried chicken.
And is Southern hospitality a part of that too?
Absolutely. I think it's the main ethos of our service and how we greet people, how we serve people at Bell's. It's a big part of our service model. My business partner Miranda, she's a big important part of implementing that. Mm-hmm. Without her influence, and she really understood it, though she's never really worked in the South, but she really understood the ideal of Southern hospitality. I don't know if anyone's here from the South, but it's a real thing in Southern hospitality. It's not just.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. Like I thought, like a shirt off your back. It's a real feeling. So it's like, it's not just a cliche thing that they use. It's, I spent in total 4 years there, but 3.5 years at Husk, and it was a big part of working there. If you didn't, a lot of the people, or Yankees, or a lot of people from the North, they wouldn't. It took them a little time to capture it and understand it, but once you get involved in it and understanding it, it just comes so easily.
Yeah, well, also the other part of Bell's that's really popular and it's gotten so influential is the fact that you collaborate with so many different restaurants. You mentioned that. You aspire to be one of the top chefs one day, someone like a Rene Redzepi, and you're doing collabs with Noma. How do you get these collaborations going, and how is that mixing kind of casual dining in a really fine dining restaurant? What's that like?
I guess we've been very, very lucky. Aaron's invited me to New York. We've cooked in New York before. Yeah. Noma. We've done tons of collaborations. I mean, Noma's a big one, obviously because we were neighbours
Weren't
during.
they like the best restaurant in the world for how many years?
They've won it a few times. But yeah, I guess it's just one of those things that you create relationships, and I can be in another country in 24 hours. I can do a pop up for 600-700 people within 24 hours. It's not a massive issue. So that's it's chicken. It's like it's available everywhere in the world, everywhere. So I don't think unless there's a vegan country somewhere, I think chicken's available everywhere in the world. It's the most eaten protein in the world, and I think it's quite easy for me now after doing them. I think I've counted it's 85 pop-ups I've done in collaboration.
85 pop-ups around the world.
Yeah, in 5.5 years. So it's and we're still going. So we've been super lucky to collab with some really cool people here.
What do you think like one of your favourite experiences might be?
I mean, definitely No More Under the Bridge, which was really surreal. Mm-hmm. I guess the Action Bronson late night at the Vice headquarters was really cool. That was really, really cool. Chef's Club when Aaron invited us over here in New York, that was quite surreal with Maddie Matheson. I mean, and then going to Austria and then cooking in Paris. It's pretty surreal. The runs. I don't want it to run out, but I'm getting old now, so like I have to bring some people, young buds through.
Yeah. Well, I like to do this thing where I kind of stalk you a little bit on your socials.
Okay.
And now I'm going to flash some pictures on the screen, and then you can tell me what the story is behind them.
Oh, that was hardcore. So between this is in the old Noma restaurant in Copenhagen, and between them opening the new venue which they had, there was a bit of a space, and I was there at the time, and Renee asked her, "What do you do? Like a couple hundred sandwiches?"
Just a couple hundred.
It's like 300-400 sandwiches, and thank God I got these guys making me look good. There's like all the top Noma, all the sous chefs from Noma, and we just knocked them out pretty quickly in the new restaurant, which is called Bar. Yeah, that was
Is it different for those chefs to kind of switch from cooking, extremely well put together dishes to then?
Yeah, I mean, I reckon they really enjoy it because it's something that they don't do often. So I mean, we've done it. That would have been the 6th time I've done it with those guys. One other time we did it was 850 sandwiches for the Mad Food Camp after party, which was pretty cool. I think they really enjoy a bit of it, just moving off from what they generally do.
Great. So I've been binge watching some Orange is the New Black on Netflix. I believe this is Adrienne Moore. What's going on here? Pretty chummy.
Yeah, she's from Nashville, so it was actually quite surreal. I forgot, we were meant to have someone else that day, and Action said to me, it was the Action Bronson late night show 2 years ago I did this. And Action says to me, I don't know if it was Chaka Khan or someone was meant to do the show. And in the end, we had Adrienne Moore, and she just happened to be from Nashville, which was really cool. It was a great day out there in Brooklyn, frying chicken. And then we had Sam Mason doing some ice cream later. And there's a massive wine fridge there. So, yeah, it was a good day.
And then tell me, you do a lot of natural wine pairing when you serve your fried chicken.
Yeah.
What's the philosophy behind that?
Well, basically how Bell's Hot Chicken came about is when I lived in Nashville, I was the head chef at Husk there, and it was sort of coming to a time where I kind of had to go back. Either I was going to stay for another 17 years or I was going to go back to Australia and try to make some money. So there's a great restaurant in Nashville called Hattie B's. Kind of does a similar thing with what I do at Bell's. But they do it with sort of like craft beer, and I do it with natural wine, which is wines, low intervention. Natural wines are more about farmers, and I think that, biodynamic farming and stuff like that. And low intervention, minimal sulfur. And those wines pair very well with spicy chicken. Usually like super fresh, high acid, and sort of cutting the fat inside the chicken.
Great. All right, so you've been talking about Action Bronson a lot. It looks like you might have got a bit of the munchies there.
That was actually with Aaron. We dropped this off when I was doing Chef's Counter there on Lafayette Street. I asked Aaron, we need to take some chicken to Action Bronson. He can see.
Are you sure? His eyes aren't even open.
I think he can see. But we did a home delivery there in Brooklyn, and then...
He couldn't make it all the way to Soho?
No. I think he could make it barely to the front door. So, but we've remained really good mates, and when he comes out to Australia, we always host him. We do a lot of backstage, for lots of shows, like from Fleetwood Mac to Chance the Rapper to Action.
Really?
And, they always ask us to drop a couple of buckets there, so it's always a bit of fun.
Great backstage snack. All right, this might be. Is this Jamie Oliver?
Yeah, we've been buddies for a long time. I think over 20 years we've been friends. After his first, the Naked Chef, the first edition, he did a sort of tour of Australia, and we've kept in touch. Recently, last year, he took me to my first Arsenal game, which was really cool. You don't actually know how famous he is until you go to England. Like, he comes to Australia, he's quite famous, but when you're in London, it's like the Beatles.
So Jamie Oliver or David Beckham?
Jamie Oliver, come on, man.
All right, well, I kind of want to just keep this session quite casual. We can open up to questions. I know we have a lot of people who have been attempting fried chicken at home, so Chef Morgan is here to answer whatever you'd like. We've got a microphone that we can pass around. Anyone?
Don't be shy, there's going to be plenty of chicken. We're all going to make it, I think. We're going to make it.
We've only got 300 pounds of it, though.
I know, they wanted 600.
Hello. Thank you for stopping by. Just a quick question, like on the origin story. When you first started, what were the major breakthroughs or biggest obstacles, just like in the early process, that helped you overcome and kind of get a little bit of runway?
With fried chicken?
Yeah, when you started Bell's.
Oh, okay. So I guess, yeah, I think from day one, we were really, really busy. I had, at Husk, we'd fried chicken for maybe 50 people. I had never envisioned that we'd be frying chicken in a day in a service for over 300 people. So I was like, and you try to keep this sort of chef mentality, like, oh no, order come in, you drop the chicken, and then people are waiting too long, right? So like, I had to find a way that we sort of preempting the orders coming through. Now, without I'm not trying to come off racist or anything like that, but I can look down a huge line of people at one of my stores, Barangaroo, and I can tell how many wings and how many drumsticks and how many tenders just by the origin of nationality. That was pretty good. I did that. I can look down and where my biggest store is, where we can preempt this, because I usually expedite there. I can say drop 10 portions of wings, drop 10. Now drop 20 tenders, because I know who's coming through. They're not going to eat chicken with bone in it. So like, we've had to sort of create this sort of understanding.
You've got a formula in your head.
Yeah.
Secret.
10 Asians, 10 wings, 10 drumsticks. I can just tell. So that was also too. Some of the side dishes was so foreign to Australia, like braised greens with lima beans. So like, well, what's this thing? Or 3-bean salad. Mixed pickles, which we do, which is a old Charleston recipe that I received, which uses turmeric, and people were like really. They took a couple of years for them to understand that you eat pickles with nearly every meal in the South, as part of a way of cutting back the fat and just clearing the palate. They wondered why there wasn't a lot of coleslaw and a lot of mayonnaise in the coleslaw. Well, I don't want to have a lot of mayonnaise. I want to be more acidic, so less mayonnaise. And they're like, oh, it looks a bit too dry for me. You know what I mean? Like, but so things like that, like culturally, it was introducing Southern cultural staples, like side dishes, took a little time. It took about 2 years, I think, but now it's, people like, we have this dish, because one of my favourite restaurants in Nashville is a place called Arnold's Country Kitchen. It's by far the best restaurant in Nashville, and I'm probably going to go there soon. Some people are going to probably bludgeon me from behind, but you can only eat there. It's so good, but you can't eat there all the time. But there's this dish that they do. They do these braised beans, like green beans, with ham hock, and they gave me the recipe. I can't give you guys a recipe, but I swore I wouldn't give it. But they braise these beans for 6 hours. So like you know, when you're a chef, you're told to cook a bean for like 6 minutes. 6 hours? You're cooking a bean for 6 hours, but they are literally, it's crack. So it's like they're so good. So we decided we got the recipe for these beans, and we call them almost Arnold's beans, because we will never be able to make them the same as the lady's been making them back there for 27 years. It's impossible. So things like that, we've introduced Australia to some of the, you know, mac and cheese is just, everywhere makes mac and cheese, but in Australia it's not a lot of great mac and cheese, but I'm not saying we make the best mac and cheese, but you know, some of these staples are
They just never known what it's supposed to taste like.
Yeah, exactly.
So, over here.
You can just tell me right here.
Yeah. Sure, well, with that in mind, do you feel like you've blended the cultures of Australian and Southern cooking to a point where you can't really, like, there's something at your restaurant that you feel like is unique to there now that you've blended with Australian culture?
I find that's a really good question. I find that Australia is such a new country that we don't really have a food culture, so to speak. We're still trying to define what is Australian cuisine. We have loads of, it's a multinational country. We have so many immigrants coming in and out, as like America, but we don't have a cuisine as such. So I think it's been much easier for me to even implement Korean-style fried chicken into Belsar chicken, because we have a lot of Korean immigrants, and I think it's been so much easier for the people to accept. There's no such thing as authenticity in Australia. We've been stealing stuff for a long time, so I mean, we're still trying to steal stuff from you guys.
So there are so many new restaurants opening up all the time, you know, in New York. I heard, like, if you survive 2 years, that's a long time. So how are you making sure that you're staying relevant? Is it like reinventing yourself, or are you just going to be known as like the classic restaurant that serves the same thing for 100 plus years? Like, how are you trying to stay relevant in the market?
That's a really good question. I mean, I'm super proud of what we've achieved in 5.5 years. And to say that it's always been amazing, it's that I would be lying. But we're always trying to stay ahead of the curve and keeping our customers coming back, not because we're giving them free shots of moonshine or, you know, extra food or this and that. We just try to do a good job every day. And collaborations. Recently, I did one just 2 weeks ago with Nongshin noodles, which is like Shin ramen. Come on, if you're Asian, I mean, you guys, it's like your guys' cornflakes, you know what I mean? Like, so like that sort of opens up another market for us that we probably did have access to, but and also too, I think it's completely different to New York or America. So our population is so small. Like we are literally fighting every day for a small market, and I think that for us to stay in this business for this long it's been a massive achievement. And that's just not from me, it's my team as well. Like we're always trying to find ways to keep people coming back in and taking care of our customers. And you know we've seen, I just said to Mans yesterday that there was a kid now, when we opened he was like 13, now he's bringing dates in. So he wants us to get him drunk, you know. Like we have we can't. I said, what about your dad? We can't tell you. We've got to tell your dad. And he goes, no, don't tell my dad. Just get me lit. Just get me lit. You know.
Oh, you
So,
must
like,
have
it's-
grown up.
So it's cool to see that. It's cool to see that. I mean, I'm hoping that we're going to be around for a long, long time. We don't know. We could be eating a fried chicken pill soon. So.
Great.
So you're importing essentially a lot of different cuisines from different cultures. How do you balance staying true to the dish from its origin and your constraints around like local suppliers or local tastes?
So we a lot of our staff are from all different countries. I think predominantly my kitchen staff are all from Nepal. Generally, like students that come there, and some of them are accountants, and they got to work somewhere. So, starting actually this year, we've decided to start. I've been working with Nepalese for 5.5 years, so, and I've never actually had them cook any. We've never had any of their dishes on our menu, which is something that I thought, oh, that's really strange. We should just start implementing that into our menu. But at the end of the day, it has to be fried chicken and it has to be delicious. That's the most important thing. Then after that, it starts into ingredients and how can we keep true to what the main ethos of us when we first started is that it has to be Southern in some way or form. We have to. And it has to be delicious, and it has to be, culturally, it has to be correct. We have to be keep sensitive in that respect.
Great. I think we have time for one more, and then I know where everybody's heading.
Well, this should be a pretty quick one. I'm just wondering, you've mentioned how you've got cooks in your kitchen who are of different backgrounds. I was wondering, before you were in the industry, is there anything from when you were growing up, things from your family, things you personally cooked, that you try to keep touch with or maybe even bring into your cooking today?
Well, I'm Polynesian, but my father's Irish. Like before in other restaurants, before I did Bell's, I have cooked that style of food. But to be in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be doing this new special, which is a huli huli chicken, which is from Hawaii. And we thought, it's a big reach, but it's Polynesian. It's a big reach, but I'm Polynesian. And we wanted to do a huli huli style chicken. Obviously, it's based from Hawaii. So that's going to be the first time we're ever going to kind of use my culture in any way. It's like I said, it's a massive reach. Huli huli is Hawaii. I'm from New Zealand. It's a bit of a reach, but I mean, I think there's definitely sort of like a feeling there. We're gonna try to do some sort of like cooked taro dish that my people eat. We have in the past done sweet potato salad, which is something that we did do in the South, but sweet potato again. It's really hard because I want to stay completely true to Southern cuisine in a sense, and it can be hard with Polynesian food. But that was a great point though. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for everyone. We've got such a great crowd here today. Yeah. Well, let's put our hands together for Morgan. I hope you enjoy the rest of your trip
Yes.
in New York.
Let's get some fried chicken.
Let's go.